Okay, so I have at this point in the semester, some students start to struggle with, okay, I've learned a lot of facts about C++. How do I tie them all together and put them in a program? So given a problem, how do I solve that problem and write a program? So I'm going to go through a sample problem that has decision statements in it and show you the process that you should be using. So I'm going to start with a problem here. Calculate and display a salesperson's weekly pay. The user is going to enter the type of employee, right? Either P for part-time, F for full-time, and the amount of sales for the week. So two things they're going to enter. If the employee is part-time, their base pay is 100 plus commission. If they're full-time, it's 300 plus commission. And the commission is based on the following: 2% of your sales, from 0 to 1,000, 3% from 1,000 to 2,000, and 4% higher. So we have to think about the variables we're going to need, the data types are going to need, right? So we have to have an employee type is going to be either P or F. That's going to be a character, right? And then we're going to have some other variables. And sometimes you could think about all the variables up front. Sometimes as you're going along, you realize you need another one and then you can declare it. But I'm just trying to go through the whole process here. So we are going to need the amount of sales for the week, right? Weekly sales. We're going to have to be storing their base pay and their commission rate, which is going to be either 2%, 3%, or 4%, and we're calculating their weekly pay. So let's start off. If we have to get any information from the user, which we do in this case, we need the employee type and the weekly sales. Okay, let's just start with that part of the program. So I'm going to flip over to the compiler, and here you can see, right? In my compiler, I've declared the variables that I talked about, the character variable, employee type, and the double variables, right? And now I'm getting the information from the user. So I'm going to ask them to enter the type of employee, and you should tell them what the different possibilities are, right? P or F, and I'm going to read that in. So employee type is character variable. It's going to hold a P or an F. You don't declare the P, don't declare the F, just the character variable. And then enter weekly sales amount, right? That's what you're getting from the user. So now I'm going to go back here. I have a number of calculations. I have to calculate their base pay first, right? I need to find out if it's 100 or 300 based on the employee type. And this is just kind of pseudocode. I'm just writing out, right, the thought process. If it's a P, the base pay is 100. If it's, an F, it's going to be 300. So I'm going to come in here, right? If it's a P, the base pay is going to be 100. Otherwise, it's going to be, else it's going to be 300. And notice here, I'm checking for both the uppercase and a lowercase p. That would be good practice, right? So the user could enter either one. Remember, with the OR operator, you have to have a Boolean expression on either side. So it's got to be, if it employee type equal P or equal lowercase p, right? So now I've calculated the base pay. Now I've got to figure out what their commission rate is, right? And I was given that information in my problem right here. And so here, my commission rate, if the sales is less than or equal to 1,000, it's 0.02, right? And that's how we represent a percentage. If it's less than or equal to 2,000, it's 0.03, otherwise it's 0.04. I'm going to go here, and we can see that's, an if-else-if statement, right? We've got three decisions. If it's this, right, if it's less than or equal to 1,000, it's 0.02. Else if it's less than or equal to 2,000, it's 0.03, else it's 0.04. So now I know what the base pay is, right? I know what their commission rate is. So the next thing I can do is calculate the commission and the weekly pay, right? Calculate the commission, which is just the sales times the rate, and then I just add that to their base pay. And that's what I'm going to do right here in my program, right? My weekly sales times the commission rate, that's going to give me the commission. And then I add that to the base pay, and that's going to be the weekly pay. And lastly, the only thing I need to display as per my problem is the weekly pay, right? So that's what I'm going to display in my cout statements. Now, obviously, this is a simple cout statement. If you have to have more things, you know, you have more things that are displaying in your cout statement. And that's kind of going through the process. Don't get overwhelmed. Think about what variables you need. Think about what the data types are, right? Start to come up with some names for these things. Next, figure out what you're getting from the user. Now you have those variables in place, and then you need to start to think about the calculations or your assignment statements. And in this case, we have, you know, a two-way decision. It's either a P or an F, or here's a three-way decision, if statement. You know, you have to think about the decision that has to be made, and you have to think about the calculations. If you can't do the calculations, you can't write a program for this, all right? In this module, we also talk about test data. So here I've come up with some test data. I want to check all the different possibilities. If the employee type is P, right? And then I want to have a weekly sale that's less than 1,000, that's between 1,000 and 2,000, and that's greater than 2,000. That's checking all the cases. I figure out what those numbers are, and then I run my program with those numbers to see if it works. And then the same thing if it's an F, right? I want to check if you have a case where it's less than 1,000, if it's between 1,000 and 2,000, if it's greater than 2,000. I want to know what the results are. So now, you know, here, let's pick this example. I'm going to run my program with an F and 2,500, and the weekly pay should be 400. So let me just run it. F, oops, sorry. Let me do that again. Move my window down so you can see it. There we go. F, 2,500, and the weekly pay is 400. And that's what it should be according to my test data. And you should check it for all the possible cases. All right. So that's kind of like the thought process from beginning to end, right? Declaring variables, getting information from the user. What are my calculations? We're working with decision statements in this module. So here you'll see decision statements in the calculations. What am I going to display? And then how am I going to test my program? The other thing that I'll just demonstrate here quickly is, you know, what if the user doesn't put in a P or an F? What if they put the letter X in by accident? Well, in this case, it's going to default here. So if I wanted to do a little better error checking, I could do something like this. And I think in the current project, you are asked to do some error checking. So I could say, else if the employee type is an F, the base pay is 300, else, if it's not valid at all, I just want the program to exit, because, you know, bad data in is not going to give us correct results. So I'm going to just say invalid employee type, run program again. And what I want to do at this point is I just want to exit out of my program. So I don't want to go any further. And this is an exit function. It just leaves your program. -1 going back to the operating system means, you know, invalid termination. So, you know, that something happened or there was a problem. So that's all I'm going to do. And now, oops, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. OneDrive is taking over my computer. All right, so I just put this in else if it's F or F, base pay is 300, else I showed you the error message. So let me run it now. Let's say the user puts in X by accident. Then we just get invalid employee type, run the program again, because we don't want to go any further. All right, so there you go. A problem from beginning to end with decision statements.